Good evening, everyone, here on a Tuesday night. This is College Blitz here on FTSN. I'm Russ Morgan here with my boy Q. As always, Q, we're going into week 8, going just flying by. But how we doing on this fine Tuesday night?
It was good, bro. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday to everybody out there joining us, man. Hope everybody's had a great start to the week. I'm assuming not everybody has had the start to the week that some of these coaches have had, but we'll get into
it. That's definitely some fan bases a little worse than others, but I think as a pure sportsman, you know me, like I know you got your team, you're a Canes fan. I follow Arizona, but they're just not that great at football. They're more basketball, baseball. Basketball is great. So I just love college football, SEC, Big Ten. ACC is a little behind, but SEC, Big Ten. So I'm pumped. And we got basketball kicking up at the end of the month. We got October baseball, and then hockey just started the other, 5, 6
days. They're like 3-ish games in most teams.
Yeah, I think right now I'm watching. Trying to watch right now the Lightning playing the Capitals. I actually got to go. Amalie, it's not Amalie. It used to be Amalie Arena in Tampa. It's supposed to be wild. It's supposed to be a good environment, a really good environment. So I definitely got to go. But obviously, you had noted to it. We definitely had big news the other day with Penn State firing James Franklin. James Franklin was 104-45 and 40-20 against ranked opponents. And if you do, any fan bases want to get their coaches fired, you might want to schedule UCLA and Nika Iamaleava, because it seems coaches get fired, his coach, his own coach, or another coach after they play him. But Q, what was your opinion on this?
Bro, listen, like we were chopping it up off air. I don't know if there's a huge surprise there, right? I mean, scale of 0 to 10. I think my surprise level is probably 2, right? And I think really it's only that high based on where we are in the season, right? I mean, he's in his 12th season, and obviously 0-3 in the Big Ten to start off. The Oregon loss. I don't know that there's any shame there necessarily. You were at home. The whiteout in Happy Valley and, this and that. And then college game day was there and everything. So obviously a letdown, but not nearly as big a letdown as flying to UCLA, the next week in front of like 300 people, and losing that game. And then the week after, coming back home and losing to Northwestern. Northwestern isn't as bad as they have been in the previous couple of years, but they're definitely not great by any stretch, right? You don't expect them to go into Happy Valley and win that game. So, you're looking at, what James Franklin, was able to do, right? You take kind of the big picture view on things, right? You mentioned, the record, right? 104-45 overall, which, again, in and of itself, a good record, right? 64-36 versus the Big Ten, right? Pretty good, right? 34-8, I believe, his last 3 years. Obviously, a good record. I'd say most teams would take that 3-year stretch, right? You know how many 10-win seasons James Franklin had at Penn State?
Off the top of my head, without looking, I would say.
What would you guess?
You said 12 years. I would say about 8.
He's got 5 10-win seasons.
Okay.
And how many 11-win seasons do you think he has?
2.
4.
Okay,
so listen, big picture, right? We're looking big picture. If you're telling me that Mario Cristobal, as a Canes fan, in his 12th year, those are his numbers, I feel like I would take it, right? I don't feel like I would be disappointed with that, right? Again, big picture. Then we start looking more micro, right? And we're looking at numbers, right? Listen, and one losing season. Right, it was a COVID year. He went 4-5. Obviously, just a weird year for a lot of people and a lot of programs and stuff. One losing season, and this was 12 season. So again, you have to like those numbers. But then when you start to get a little bit deeper into those numbers, right? 4-16 versus Ohio State and Michigan combined. Right, 4-16. That's a problem because those are your two biggest rivals, in terms of the Big Ten. Right, 3-17 versus top 10 teams. 3-17 versus top 10 teams. Right, and so now those are more the numbers that people are starting to look at in terms of, hey, he needed to go. Right, because again, big picture, obviously the guy won. More micro picture, macro, right? Micro, view on it was, listen, he wasn't winning enough. He wasn't winning Big Ten titles. He wasn't beating, the two biggest rivals, that they have in terms of the Big Ten, and then the wins and losses obviously are more under the microscope. Why? Because of the money that is being dedicated to a program, like Penn State. Jim Knowles is the highest paid coordinator in the country. They stole him from Ohio State and made him the highest paid coordinator in the country. Right? He makes a $3.1 million. They have the fifth highest paid offensive coordinator in the country, and Andy Kolonicki. He's at like 1.6, which I also found kind of weird. That the DC makes almost double the OC. I thought that was kind of weird, but he makes 1.6 million. Is the fifth highest paid OC in the country. Right? NFL talent all over the place. Right, this guy who, and before I mention his name, then we both agreed before the season started, and we've been saying it throughout the season. We never believed the hype in Drew Aller, but this is a guy who everybody was hyping and talking about. Oh, Drew Aller, possible top 5 pick. I never bought it. I never bought into the hype. Never thought that he was worthy of it. But people were saying it. People that know a lot more than you and I who cover the draft, although they swore by it. I was like, okay, well, that's your opinion. I didn't agree with it. Right. So the money and the resources, when you're looking at what they have, best running back room in the country, right? You're looking at one of the top O-lines in the country, receiver help in the portal, right? They spent a bunch of money in the portal, right? $700 million that they've allocated towards renovating Beaver Stadium. So all these things, when you're looking at, resources mean expectations. Period, point blank, right? That is what we're looking at in terms of, hey, listen, this is what we think of our program. We're allocating these types of funds, these types of dollar figures on the field, off the field. That means that who's ever in that position better not only be winning, but be winning big and be winning big games, be in the running for conference titles and, playoff victories and the whole deal. Like all that is expected when you're spending the kind of money that Penn State is spending. And so, again, go back to the original question, how surprised am I? Again, the only thing that kind of surprises me necessarily is the timing of it, because we still have half the season to go. But listen, now the conversation starts, right? The backdoor, type of conversations between representation and everything like that, start going on. And so we'll get into some of the names here in a little bit. But, again, not at all surprised, really given the things that I just mentioned.
I mean, I was not surprised, and I thought Franklin probably should have been fired before even making the college football playoff last year. I think he ran out his welcome in Penn State. Not being yes, the record is there. He's won games. He's done well in the Big Ten, but when it comes down to being able to beat Ohio State, being able to beat Michigan, that's what you pay for when you're a Penn State program. Big-time blue-blood programs, you pay to beat Ohio State. You expect to be right there with Ohio State and Michigan. Obviously, Michigan is down in the last couple years, is not the same, but I mean, that's what you bring in a coach like James Franklin. He could never get that done. So I think I'm more surprised on I would say more like a 6 on the massive hype Penn State was getting. Was I surprised he got fired? No, I thought it was just too long for him. Yes, you got a lot of 10, 11-1 seasons, but you don't win the big game. And now with Oregon coming in to the Big Ten, just makes it that much better. SC that much better. I mean, it's him not being able to win the big game gets it done. Yes, I think he gave himself a little extra life making the 12-team playoff last year, just like Ryan Day did, extended his time but Ryan Day ended up winning, so Ryan Day's probably comfortable for at least
So
5
he
years.
bought himself some time. You win the title, you bought yourself a couple.
You buy yourself some time, and the way Ohio State's cooking right now, I think he'll be fine for a while. The way they're looking and the way they're recruiting, I think it'll be good. But I think it was probably time. I mean, yes, you can't lose to UCLA, who's been in shambles for 25 years. I mean, I'd have to go back to the 90s, the last time UCLA was really good. Playing in the Rose Bowl. It's been a very long time. Yes, Northwestern is better, but that program's been in shambles since the scandal a couple years ago. You can't lose there.
And everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think it was time. I mean, we spoke about Drew Aller. Listening to everybody on ESPN and Colin Cowherd, the Drew Aller, and every NFL guy, Drew Aller's got the measurables. But I'm like, when push comes to shove, how does he look against good teams? Yes, he looked good in one game. He looked good, and then when he went up against Notre Dame, he not that great of the game. And then what the hell was he looking at against Oregon at the end when he threw that interception? So I think it was time. You got to win the big games, and he wasn't doing that. I mean, I think there's a list of names. I think Penn State's a very attractive place to coach. I mean, you have a lot of resources, like you just brought up. I mean, there's the one name I saw was Matt Rule, who's a former Penn State player, would be a guy who might be interested, but he's starting to turn things around in Nebraska. But do you have a name you'd like to see at Penn State, or you would think would be a front runner?
Well, yeah, I'll get to the name here in a second. I mean, and just to kind of go back to what you were talking about, right? I mean, there again, right? You go back to the record and you talk about what it is he's done and the whole deal. You have to commend the guy, right? He came in, right? Followed Bill O'Brien, right? When Bill O'Brien had been brought in to kind of clean up the Joe Paterno mess, right? And that was a disaster, right? And wasn't that long ago, right? Bill O'Brien kind of came in, stabilized things a little bit, right? And then, James Franklin came in. Obviously, he's done a really good job, since he's been there. But again, you talk about, resources. You talk about, listen, you're in the Big Ten, right? And now, when you're looking at what it is you have at your disposal, right? There's no more excuses. There's no more excuses, right? Because you're looking at, like I was saying, you're looking at the combination of OC and DC is among the best in the country. Right, you're talented at every single position. Right, you have a first-round NFL, hopeful, quarterback in Drew Aller. Right, you've got again a great O-line. You're really good on defense, and so when you're looking at everything you've done, right, you regressed. Yes, you had a great 24, season. Yes, you were really close to making the title game. Right, but that was last year. Right, and last year was last year. When you're looking at this year now, with even more talent, right? With probably across the board better coaching, if we're being honest, right? More capable coaching. You're looking at a team that's regressed, right? And then you compound that with the fact that these guys do not win big games. James Franklin does not win big games, right? And so when you're looking at it, you're going, hey, man, this is the year, right? We're set up perfectly. Another year with Drew Aller, another year under the same system. Jim Knowles comes in, right? Huge hire. In the offseason, we fortify the team through the portal. The running backs don't enter the draft, literally don't enter the draft to come back and try and win a title. And you're looking at all this going on. And then the negativity from everything I've read, the negativity from the fan base has been insane, right? And some of it kind of messed up, man. James Franklin's kids kind of being harassed and everything like that, which is, is obviously, again, man, that's in poor taste. That's super shitty, and I think that's kind of, the bad thing about major sports and obviously, college sports, being in that category is obviously, now you become, a target of these keyboard gangsters on Twitter and all the socials and everything and everything like that. So again, it sucks, but that's why you get paid the big bucks, man, because, you have to put up with certain things. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying it kind of comes with the territory these days. So, again, man, all things considered, you're looking at, what he's done there is good, not great, right? Even with those 10-win seasons, even with 11-win seasons, especially when you look at the very recent history of your biggest rivals, right? Michigan just won a title, right? Ohio State followed that up, right? And so when you're looking at the top of the Big Ten, you're looking at these programs, and now obviously Oregon coming in, like you mentioned, USC looking like they're kind of starting to take that step, right, where they dog walk Michigan, this past Saturday. And so you figure it's only a matter of time. Now, again, I'm not predicting anything big for USC, right? Again, I think there's a lot of sizzle and not a lot of stake there when it comes to looking at Riley. Again, that's another topic for another day. But there again, man, it's like these guys felt compelled, they felt forced, to have to make a change, given what's happened there and what hasn't happened there, right? In terms of names, it just depends on it depends on what website or what Twitter handle it is that you subscribe to, you follow, man. I mean, I've heard Matt Rule, a lot, I guess, right? I think this is going to be one of those searches that everybody's in play, right? I saw a little while ago somewhere on Twitter or X or whatever, Mike Elko was the name that got brought up, which is kind of interesting to me, right? I thought that was really interesting. Some other names I've heard, obviously Matt Rule being a big one. Did you see his interview when they asked him about the Penn State job the other day, like right after it happened? I mean, he almost got teary-eyed talking about Penn State. I was like, wow, that's passion. Like, I was like, damn, you know what I mean? Like, tell me you're interested in the gig without telling me you're interested in the gig. Like, I was like if I was the leadership at Nebraska right now, I'd be like, what the hell was that? He almost got like he was talking about his daughter. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
what the hell was that, right? And so, again, I don't know, man. I don't know if maybe I'm in the minority in I don't think Matt Rule is like this home run hire necessarily. That might just be me. He may get the job and he may do great. But listen, no matter what, and then I saw like Manny Diaz, you're insane, right? And you don't fire James Franklin to hire Manny Diaz. Like that's not happening. I would put lots of money on that not being the case. Some of the names I heard, Marcus Freeman, I was a little bit surprised at that. What else did I hear? I don't know. I heard a few other names that I was like, okay. So we'll see now what kind of cachet Penn State holds, right? You're in the highest revenue per school earning conference, I should say, right? Because they make more money, not by a lot, but they make more money per school than the SEC does, right? You're looking at now. I saw the other day where there's a private equity company offering the Big Ten $2 billion essentially to buy in. And again, I think there's a lot of pause, about that type of move with private equity firms and everything. But, who knows what happens there. But, this is a conference that has a ton of money. Listen, you've got a ton of money when you're looking at what this buyout is, right? And now only for James Franklin, you're looking at now the figures that I'm seeing in terms of the staff, right? That's another $10+ million. Now you're looking at bringing in a new coach with a new staff. That's who knows how much more money. You're looking at roughly $100 million if you're looking at what potentially this move could cost to get rid of James Franklin. So to me, that signifies a national search. That signifies they're going to go big game hunting for this gig. And now we're really going to see, what the cachet is for Penn State, right? Because is Penn State a good program with means? Yes and yes, right? But, Penn State doesn't have this long history recently of winning national titles. Again, I don't know that they have the reach that Georgia or Alabama has or that Ohio State or Michigan has. And so we'll see, man. Again, I've told you that, and I've said the easiest thing in the world is firing somebody.
Yeah.
That's always the easy move, right? Hey, you got to go. That's the easy move. Now, who are you going to go get to replace him? That's what's going to determine, how this goes, right? Again, yeah, you fired him. Okay, he's done, right? Good for you. The fan base is clapping. But who are you going to get to replace that guy? And come in and win those big games and recruit the way he's recruited and everything like that. we'll see. We'll see if they have the cachet they think they do.
Yeah. Marcus Freeman's maybe leaving, and that would only be one place, and that would be Ohio State. I don't think he would leave Notre Dame for anything but Ohio State, being an Ohio State guy. And that job, like we discussed, is not coming open anytime soon. Ultimate Sports Network, thanks for tuning in again, man. Good to see you. Brian Flores, that's a pick out of left field. For sure.
I've heard. I also saw Joe Brady. Joe Brady, the OC for the Bills.
I mean, he's got some college experience, so.
Yeah, with LSU and everything. So I think that's an interesting name. I think that's one. Listen, where I'm at with this gig, and it's an interesting opening just based on the fact that it's in the Big Ten, and when you're looking at resources, right? When you're looking at money you can allocate to hire somebody, I think moving inside the conference, whether it's the SEC or the Big Ten, I just feel like it's going to be tough to make that move happen, right? If you're going, now again, if you're in the SEC and kind of like happened with James Franklin, he went from Vanderbilt, right, obviously to Penn State. I think that's a right big conference, right? But you're going small school to big school, right? A school that's more exactly right. But he went from the SEC, yeah. But again, Vanderbilt, again, smallest school. They're not necessarily right this minute known as a football school, right? More of a baseball type school and everything like that. But it would take a small school to a big school. I find it hard to believe that these big names are going to leave these big programs and these big positions in the SEC or the Big Ten to go and make that move to Penn State. I don't know. I think Matt Rule would, but some of these other names, I don't. Again, Marcus Freeman, I don't know that he leave Notre Dame. I don't see Mike Elko leaving A&M, so on and so forth. So it's going to be fascinating to see.
I think as like you said, we're seeing offense and defensive coordinators make money they've never made before. If they have a cushy job, they like their position, why would they leave for a job like that where they're going to have to do a total rehaul, hiring a new staff? Now, Joe Brady would be interesting. He's got some college ties, obviously, with LSU, arguably the greatest college football team we've ever seen. So that would be an interesting one. You can't argue. That's definitely one of the greatest.
One of. I wouldn't argue. I wouldn't argue that. I wouldn't argue one of. I would argue the. I wouldn't argue one of.
I mean, I know where your head's going. I think it's all subjective. At the end of the day, all these I'm sorry. Like I hate the Patriots. I absolutely hate the Patriots. But I will be the first one to tell you Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback ever to play the game of football.
100%. Yeah,
I know Joe Montana was great, but he's no Tom Brady. I think that's the only argument. But I get it. People have arguments. People have their own opinions. Obviously I didn't see the early I saw the late Miami days. I know about Miami. I obviously love college football. I saw the second half of their dynasty, not the first half. I'm a little too young for that. I know it because I love my sports, but I didn't actually physically get to watch it live. I'm just watching, on the 30 for 30, which I think is great, but I think it'll still be an interesting job. It's the Big Ten. I know SEC people, and I do think that way, but if we're going in the last 2 to 3 years, the Big Ten has been the best college football conference. And when I say that, that doesn't mean just because your team wins the national title doesn't make your conference the best. In 2015, the Big Ten was trash and Ohio State won the national title. It was maybe not true. It wasn't good. But I'm like, overall as a conference, Big Ten in the last 2 to 3 years has been the best conference over the SEC in terms of what, teams, not just a team winning it all. So I think it'll be attractive there, but it also comes down to, where they want. And if they go the coordinator route, does he want to leave his job to become a head coach if he's making, 2 to 3 million, where he has half, has to focus on one side of the ball and not focus on defense, special teams, recruiting, and everything else goes in the program. But it'll be interesting. It was I thought it was, like we both said, a little earlier than expected, but you lose to UCLA, who's in just not a. I don't even
call
know
it what it is. Call it what it is. I mean,
it's
they're shambles.
It's a shit show.
Yeah, 100%.
And I don't even know what to say about UCLA football. And then, Northwestern, same thing. But I think they'll get the right guy. They'll figure it out. I mean, it might be a little longer.
I would say, yeah. I mean, listen, the right guy, time will tell, right? But
I think
just like with every hire,
they'll get their right guy that they want because it's in the Big Ten and it's Penn State. Will it be the right guy? Who knows? Because no one can predict the future. But we had minus that, one more. Trent Dilfer got fired from UAB. He was 0 for 17, lost 17 road games in a row at UAB. He should go back to Lipscomb Academy in Nashville, where he just dominated high school football in Tennessee. Was running a prep program out there, and
does Elite 11, so I mean that'll keep him busy.
Yeah. But we had a big week of college football. Obviously, kicked off. USF just put a shellacking on North Texas, 63-36. Ohio State, 34-16 over Illinois. Any thoughts on that game? I mean, I thought Illinois was, in my opinion, I was like, Illinois might be able to hang around, but they just don't have the talent to hang around with Ohio State.
Yeah, man. That game, I wasn't shocked, to be honest with you. I expected Ohio State to win that game, to be honest with you, to stay undefeated. So not super surprised there. I watched a lot of that North Texas game, that North Texas USF game, and man, let me tell you what, USF, went over there to old Denton, Texas, and they hung a ton of points on North Texas. It was 69-36. And Byron Brown looked good, man. That offense looked really good. Definitely, that's one of those deals where I'm sure Miami fans are excited because, someone that they beat looked that good.
Will look better for sure.
Yeah, and obviously with North Texas being undefeated and having looked good, coming into that game, definitely, one of those wins that, even if it didn't necessarily directly include Miami, I think they were really happy to, to see that one play out the way it did.
Yes. I don't know. USF's got, after this week, so they play FAU this week was 3-3. Then you play 6-0 Memphis, who Memphis is starting to get better at football.
That'll be a good game.
UTSA, who's always, I wouldn't, even though they're 3-3, I don't rate UTSA is starting to get a lot better at football.
Mm-hmm.
And
they're always good on offense. They're always good on offense.
Always good on offense. Yes, 3-3, but I mean they're exciting. And then you got maybe Navy comes in. Navy's 6-0 right now.
Damn, are they? I didn't even realize that. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, nobody even. Let's see. Navy's beat VMI, UAB, Tulsa, Rice, and then they beat Air Force 34-31 and Temple. So I mean.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, listen.
No.
Yeah, listen, 6-0, and obviously for it's a service academy, so you hey, thank you for your service. We applaud that all day. But I think 6-0, I think that's a record that I think could definitely pick apart. But listen, you can only play who you play. You can only play who they schedule you, and they've done what they have to. But hey, listen, you got some good games coming up in that group of five, man. That Memphis USF game.
Yeah.
That could be one of those things I wouldn't be shocked to see make the playoff.
That could definitely be another game to watch to get that group of five bid.
That auto bid for the group of five. So we'll see.
So I mean, it was a pretty. I mean, you won 34 Ohio State 34-16. Julian Sayin, 19 for 27, 166, 2 touchdowns. Bo Jackson, no relation, 10 for 47. No relation.
10
10 for 47. Jeremiah Smith, 5 for 42. Carnell Tate, 4 for 41. Max Clark, 4 for 30. So, I mean, it was kind of a pedestrian offensive game. They didn't really get – I mean, they're up pretty comfortable there where they didn't really have to put the foot on the gas all that much. But, I mean, not surprised in my case, but sticking in the Big Ten, Indiana, who is now number 3, goes to Eugene and beats Oregon 30-20. Fernando Mendoza goes 20 for 31, 215, a touchdown and interception. Roman Hembley, 19 for 72 touchdowns. Elijah Scarrett, 8 for 121.
Yeah, Surratt
or what? Yeah, I messed up his name. Omar Cooper Jr., 7 for 58. This was I won't say I was surprised Indiana won after what I saw they did to Illinois. I was just a little higher after seeing Oregon beat Penn State at Penn State in a whiteout. Yes, you beat them in overtime, but I was a little higher. I mean, Dante Moore was 21 for 34, 186, 2 interceptions. You get barely nothing. I mean, you get the most reception on the team was Gary Bryant Jr., 4 for 37. So I think I was a little more surprised on the Oregon not showing. I thought they would show up more and make it, be a 3-point game.
Yeah, I guess 2 things there, man. One, I don't know how I felt about that game going in, man. I had a hard time making a pick in that one. I'm definitely not surprised, honestly, to have seen, Indiana, win that game. That offense is legit. You're looking at, the defense isn't far behind. I know the numbers they put up in the whole deal, like, they beat the hell out of Illinois, when they played them, put up a ton of points. And listen, you're looking at Oregon. So 2 things. One, that Happy Valley win doesn't look nearly as impressive anymore, right? I get when it happened, you're like, hey, okay, big win. But we're looking at what Penn State has turned into now, not nearly as big a win as it looked like 3 weeks ago. 1, 2, Oregon on offense, right? So much of the stuff that we had been seeing and how impressive they were, and Dante Moore and this and that, Heisman, favorite and all this other stuff. Listen, they only put up 13 points. Like that other touchdown was a pick 6, wasn't it? Right. So you're looking at what that offense did. I mean, they didn't look as great as they looked, previously, right? So you have to really start paying attention now to Indiana, which now reminds me, Signetti at Indiana was another name that was mentioned. That would be really
I saw that one too. That would be interesting.
That would be really interesting to see how that went, right? But anyway, again, I wasn't shocked that Indiana won that game. What I'm, I guess, a little bit surprised at is how good they're looking on both sides of the ball. Because again, I know they could score, but that defense is really holding their own and holding up their end of the bargain. Right? They're really balanced, and a team that you can't just look at and be like, oh yeah, they like Miami last year, where it's just all offense and no defense. Like this is a team that on both sides of the ball, man, is really, really doing good things. So. When you're looking at the class of the Big Ten, I get Ohio State, right, and I get they're undefeated and the defense is really good and the whole deal. But I don't sleep on Indiana, and when that comes around and we'll see how that goes. But I right now, like neutral field, I would be hard pressed to take Ohio State over Indiana right now.
And you're right, Brandon Finley Junior, 35 interception return to make it 2020, and then Indiana put up 10 straight. I mean, I'm looking at. I mean, Indiana's got Michigan State this week, UCLA, Maryland, Penn State, Wisconsin, Purdue.
Dude, that's a really favorable schedule.
I would err on the side of 75 to 80% going undefeated there.
I would lean closer to 80.
It's football. Anything can happen.
It can happen, but that is a very favorable schedule, though.
Yeah.
That's
Hell yeah.
very favorable. Very.
But I mean, Fernando Mendoza. We're first off, we're seeing what Kurt Cinetti can do after a full year. He turned that program around in one off season and made it into a college football playoff team, and now he gets a full off season and is turning this looking like one of the best teams in college football. Yes, he's done it 2 years in a row with the transfer quarterback, but that's kind of the way college football is going nowadays.
11 of the 12 quarterbacks that were taken to the draft, this past year were transfers.
Yeah. I mean,
the only one that wasn't was Jalen Milroe. Everybody else was a transfer. So, that's part of it.
Not minus the defense, but plus the defense, was the defense looking great after, Oregon and everybody's take on Oregon. Oregon's offense is electric. They held them at 13 points. And we saw them at Penn State. They look good. They're not as electric as they were last year, but they're still a good offense. They hold them at 13 points. But the one thing I think Indiana's got going, other than the defense, is on that offensive side. You got Fernando Mendoza under center, who is a guy who, yes, I'll give him he's from Miami. I'll give him his credit. He's from Miami. I know but a guy who was going to go to Yale, went to Cal. He is anybody, if you get into Yale, you got to be smart. So he's got it up here where I think you have almost a second coach on the field.
Yeah, he's a kid from Miami, a kid who was very lightly recruited, went to a really prominent high school down in Miami, really good program down there. And kid's super intelligent. Did you hear that interview he did after the game? After the Oregon game?
I heard parts of it. I didn't hear that.
Yeah, just a really, really easy guy to root for, man. If you get a chance to find it after we're done, it really is a pretty cool. It is a pretty cool interview. The way he did it, man. Again, a guy who's hard not to root for, man. The opposite of a diva, the opposite of self-centered, the opposite of hey, look at me, he's heaping all the praise, right? Praise the big man above, praise his team, the O-line, the coaches, right? Everybody, wasn't taking any of the credit at all. And so, you definitely, again, man, you root for a guy like that, especially when you hear the story and where he was going to go, where he ends up. And, obviously now, being a Heisman front runner, being a first round pick consideration in the NFL draft. And so, listen, man, when you take what that team has into consideration, you can't sleep on them. You can't sleep on that team. I know what that logo says, and I know that they're, quote unquote, a basketball school. Like I get it, but they turned that page, man. They turned the page. They look really good, and anybody who sleeps on this team is gonna end up paying for it because they're always ready to play. They take on that attitude of their coach. You know what I mean? Like they got a chip on their shoulder. You listen to Kurt Cignetti's interviews, man, and he definitely talks, with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, and he gets sassy sometimes on the mic. He goes, all I do is win and Google me, stuff like that. It's like, okay, coach, I look, hey, I ain't mad at it, man. I'm not mad at it. If you don't, you got to make people recognize the greatness, right? If you don't, then who will? But again, man, they've got it all. They've got it all, and they're going to have something to say in this college football playoff.
And it's like you said, very favorable schedule to end up in Indianapolis.
100%.
Very, 100%. Very favorable.
I would be surprised if they're not there.
The way it's looking out, even one loss is going to get you. Because you have the head-to-head against Oregon. You lose one in the Big Ten. You already have the head-to-head against Oregon. You don't have to play Ohio State. So it's. Even if they do have one stumble there, I still see them in Indianapolis because of that favorable schedule. But
yeah, we'll see. We'll see because again, kind of like the. And I'd have to look at Oregon's schedule, see how that goes. But, kind of to bring up the ACC and kind of the weirdness that goes on there is the three schools that are favored don't play each other. So if all of them end up with the same record at the end of the season, it's a weird tiebreaker. So who knows if that's kind of the scenario that ends up playing out. But I think it's cool that them and Ohio State don't play each other in the regular season, because again, I can see them, fairly easily. Especially, I'd have to look at Ohio State's remaining record, but again, man, with Indiana, I'd be kind of surprised if they're not in Indianapolis versus Ohio State in that Big Ten title game.
Quickly staying in the Big Ten, SC beat Michigan 31-13.
Dog walk.
Right now, yeah. Right now they're 3-1 in the Big Ten, and they got Nebraska next weekend, next weekend. They got a pretty favorite. They do have to play Oregon, but Ohio State. What's Ohio State's remaining? You got Wisconsin, Penn State, Purdue, UCLA, Rutgers, and then Michigan. But moving on to the SEC, which had some interesting games. First off, with number 4 Ole Miss narrowly beating Washington State 24-21. Texas A&M handled business 34-17 over Florida. And then to kick off the morning, we had Alabama 27-24 over Mizzou. And in that game, Ty Simpson, 23 for 31, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. Jam Miller, 20 for 85. Lorenzer Brooks, 4 for 58. Ryan, so, I mean, I think Missouri, in my opinion, yes, they're starting to prove, they're back, they're a football program, but I don't think they're at the level of the Alabamas or Georgias yet.
No, listen, man, they look good, and I was kind of wondering. I actually, I put it on Twitter, and I asked a question: Did Penn State keep the right quarterback, right? Because Joe Perdula looks really good for Missouri overall. He didn't have a great game against Alabama, but you can tell, this kid's going to be legit. I don't think they ran the ball the way that I think they thought they were going to run it. And I don't think they stopped it the way they thought they were going to stop it versus Alabama. So, good game or good win on the road for Alabama. Ty Simpson's looking, like he's at the very front of in terms of the Heisman. He's definitely, I think with that game, I think he made himself a top 3 candidate, at this point, him and Mendoza. I think Dante Moore probably, stepped back a little bit after his performance against Indiana. But listen, man, Alabama, since that loss to Florida State, man, they've looked really good. They're making a lot of progress. Ty Simpson's getting more comfortable. That dude makes plays. He can move really well. He can throw it well. They're kind of starting to come along. So, again, wasn't surprised to see them win that game. I think that was a popular upset pick, but not surprised to see them go to Missouri and win that game.
On the running front, Ahmad Hardy, Hardy's the leading rusher, right?
Yeah, he's the leading rusher in the country, or he was before that game.
12 for 52.
Exactly.
So I don't know if did you see that take after they lost to Florida State where they just interviewing some random woman in Alabama. And she's like, what are you going to do if you win the lottery? And she's like, I know the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to buy out Kalen DeBoer's contract. I'm like, I don't know if you want to do that now. But yeah. I think he's getting – Ty Simpson is in my opinion, maybe not a game manager, like to the extent people say. I think he's got a little more talent than that. But I don't think he's going to – he's going to be the one who's going to win you the game. He's going to do the right things to keep you in the game and make the right throws. I mean, was it Ryan?
Ryan was the receiver.
He didn't even have a reception.
Wow, did he not? He didn't have a reception against Missouri?
He didn't have a reception. So a guy who was considered, I would say for the first 6 weeks of college football, he was probably getting more hype than Jeremiah Smith was at Ohio State as being the best.
That's surprising. I didn't realize that.
I mean, for the first 6 weeks last year, people were talking about him as the best freshman in college football. And then Jeremiah Smith, we all know what he did last year. And he didn't have a single reception. And I mean,
that's impressive to win. Yeah, that's impressive to win under those.
If you watched Alabama football this year, he hasn't really been able to get going. Once he gets going, that's going to open up that passing game for Ty Simpson and Kalen DeBoer and what is the Ryan Grubb's offense so
the
much.
OC.
Yeah, the OC who's been back and forth between college and pros. But I mean, if you've watched Alabama games, he really hasn't been able to get going. Had some injuries. When he's been back, hasn't really, hasn't been get going yet. But I think they're starting to cook on all cylinders. I mean, you beat Georgia. It's going to be. We'll talk about it a little later with the game of the week. This week they got a really tough game against Tennessee. But I mean, you got Tennessee, they got South Carolina, you got LSU, you got Oklahoma, then Eastern Illinois, and then Auburn. So I mean, they still got a pretty difficult schedule remaining.
That's some losable games. You got some losable games right there for sure.
Yeah.
And it's the SEC, man. I mean, you look around at all those guys, man, the schedules that some of these guys have. I mean, it's challenging for sure. So
and sticking in the SEC, Texas beat Oklahoma 23-6.
Dude, that was a little bit. Remember we talked about that one? Little bit surprised at the way that one played out.
Mateer was 20 for 38, 202 yards, 3 interceptions. I was watching this game. I knew you were watching this game. I don't know. It was a massive Texas win. I saw a lot of balls that ended up being interceptions bounce off receivers' hands.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of balls that were fine throws by Mateer and would bounce off a hand right into a lap of a defender. So I mean,
that game, is crazy, man, because when we looked at what Texas had been up to that point, what Arch had been to that point, right? And they look pretty good on offense. The defense came to play, right? I mean, holding Oklahoma to obviously their lowest point total of the season. I was a little bit surprised just based on the fact that again, and obviously we were on live, and then you told me the what the spread was, and then that kind of like opened my eyes. I was like, if Texas is the favorite, there's got to be a reason why. Right. And I was really close to putting money on Texas, and I was like, on Oklahoma. Then I was like, you know what? They know something. So I'm gonna hold off. But I expected Oklahoma to win that game based on the defense, right? Arch had not been good. And what Oklahoma was trying out there on defense, I just thought they, and then Mateer coming back, I just figured, that would give them the edge. And I'll tell you what, man, Texas played, their best game of the season.
Arch 21 for 27, 166, a touchdown. He was 4 for 34 on the ground. I mean, the offense was it? No. I mean, 6 incompletions. So I mean,
they took the yardage though, right? Sort of yardage they didn't put up. But obviously, but that defense, you expect that. I didn't think they were gonna.
I did not expect that on the defensive side. But I mean, was this too early to bring Mateer back because from his surgery, from his injury?
Listen, I don't know if you saw any ill effects from it. I didn't really see it. It didn't seem like the injury was hampering him, to be honest with you, right? I mean, it's not a knee, it's not an ankle, right? But it is his throwing hand, right? So you really have to ask the question, okay, did we bring him back too early? I haven't seen any reports on that he aggravated the injury or that the injury, held him back or anything. I think he played well considering, but it didn't seem like to me that the injury was something
he was making good throws. It was
exactly
2 interceptions off receivers' hands that just don't. I'm like, and so
that's what I mean. Yeah, I didn't see any ill effects from the hand.
I thought Texas played good, but it was like the offense. He was getting Carson Beck treatment like it was in Georgia. The receivers couldn't touch the ball. But we did a couple more upsets. Georgia won 2010 over Auburn. LSU 2010 over South Carolina. Tennessee narrowly beats Arkansas 34-31. Georgia Tech cruises 35-20. Notre Dame cruises, who's now up to 16 in the country, 36-7. Utah just without Sam Leavitt, 42-10 over Arizona State. Colorado 24-17 over Iowa State. And
that was a big one. I didn't expect that one.
No, Q's favorite, Pitt 34-31 over FSU. Just another learning experience.
I was torn. I was torn in that one. It's two things, and I guess maybe I shouldn't have really been torn, right? Because at the end of the day, Miami has to play both of them. Miami already beat Florida State, and then they played Pitt to end the season. So really, at the end of the day, it was inconsequential, but a bad look, nonetheless for Florida State, man. All kidding aside, right there, you've lost 3 straight, conference games. You haven't won an ACC game in almost 400 days. You lose at home against a true freshman starting quarterback who only had one Power 4 offer, and that was from Pitt. And he comes in and they hang 400 yards of offense on you at Doak, right? And so, not a good look for the program, not a good look for Mike Norvell, not a good look overall for the ACC when you consider, the fact that Florida State, had that big opening win against Alabama. So, there again, man, they're not nearly as far along as I think maybe some people wanted to make them out to be. Defense still has a long way to go, again, really impressive win by a true freshman, man. Because regardless, right, you're on the road at Doak, which is always an impressive win, right? You can't short sell, how important that was, and obviously. A team in Pitt, man, who you always have to respect. Those guys are always disciplined. They always give you a game. They lost to Louisville here recently, and they outgained Louisville.
Yeah.
Right. And so, again, Pitt's a good team. It's a good team. Again, I don't think it's a game they should have won. I think Florida State was double-digit favorites, if I'm not mistaken, for a reason. But there again, man, hard-fought win. And definitely not a good look for Florida State when you're trying to make people forget about the 2-10 season last year, where you had more inches of snow at Doak Campbell Stadium than you had wins for the season.
That ACC championship game is looking far away, but I mean, we have some great games this weekend. Obviously, LSU Vandy. We got Ole Miss Georgia.
That's a great one.
And Alabama.
That Ole Miss Georgia game. That could be really good.
That's definitely a game. Alabama Tennessee, old school rivalry. Notre Dame versus USC, which is one thing we lost with all these realignments, is we lose some of those great rivalries that we don't see as much. But we'll kick it off with Miami with 2 more games before they have to leave the state. Must be really nice to play, 7 straight games in the state of Florida. They're bringing in Louisville, a Jeff Brom Louisville team, 4-1. Spread's 13.5. Louisville's getting 13.5, plus 425 for Louisville. What's your game plan? Are you a little nervous about this game, or?
Yeah, I would definitely say I would set the nervous meter at about let's go with I'd say a 6. Say call it a 6. Listen, Louisville's 4-1. Their only losses is to UVA, and I guess if you look a little bit deeper right into the record, if you're looking at who they beat, obviously not the most impressive resume. They beat Eastern Kentucky 51-17. They beat James Madison 28-14. They beat Bowling Green 40-17. They won at Pitt, their first road game. They won 34-27. And then they were home against Virginia and lost. Like I said, that was a game where they. I'm sorry, I was talking about where they got where they outgained Pitt. That was that comment that I mentioned earlier. They outgained Virginia by like 150 yards and ended up losing that game. A lot of penalties and everything. So kind of a sloppy game. But listen, I'm not super impressed by the resume. What I'm always impressed by is Jeff Brom, right? He's coming off a bye. He's a guy who's one of the best offensive minds in the country. When you talk about what he does with quarterbacks, what he does with his play calling and everything. So I think he's going to have some things up his sleeve for Miami, I'd imagine. When you're looking at Louisville, man, a team that's, outside, has NFL talent. All right, at the running back position, you've got NFL talent. I think Miller Moss is he's an okay quarterback. I don't think he's been as good as I think what a lot of people, expected from him when he transferred in from USC. But again, you have to respect what they have at the skill position. Their biggest problem is going to be on the line of scrimmage, at least on offense. Right? The O-line, some of their numbers that they're putting up, right? 105th in pass block grade, not good. 117th in run block grade, not good, right? Miller Moss, 35% completion percentage when pressured, not good, right? So, again, when you're looking at where Miami will have the advantage, I think clearly when you talk about their D-line versus Louisville's O-line, I think Miami will clearly have that advantage. The running backs for Louisville are guys who don't excel in pass protection, right? So that right there immediately is also a problem. But these are guys, man. When you're looking at Isaac Brown, at running back, you're looking at Kewan Brown is the other running back. Big time guys, and then Chris Bell and Colin Lacey. If you're able to contain those guys, I think again you have a chance. Colin Lacey and Chris Bell, they essentially dominate like all the targets. Like those are like the only the two people that Miller Moss throws to. So I think you've got enough. If you're Miami, you've got enough, on the back end that I think you can game plan against those guys. And I think it's going to make it a lot easier if your D line is getting home. And again, I think if you're a fan of Louisville, I think you have to be worried based on the fact that with that resume that they have, you figure, at least I would, that their numbers would be a lot better when you're considering what those teams aren't, right? When you're considering who you've played and what those teams are. You're not talking, line of scrimmage. You're not talking SEC lines of scrimmages, right? You're talking some fairly ordinary. You're not playing NFL guys on those teams. You're talking about the teams that they beat so far, which, again, just to review, you're looking at Eastern Kentucky, James Madison, Bowling Green, and obviously the exception being Pitt. But those aren't a lot of NFL body type you're playing against. So for them to have struggled to this point the way they have, and for them to be coming down to Miami, I think I don't know that bodes well when you're talking about their offense versus Miami's D line. I don't think that's a matchup that favors them, and you're going to be hard pressed to get right against that Miami defense.
Yeah, I would say a 5. I mean, I don't really care who wins. I want a good, but I think with who Miami's played, who they got under center, what they got on the front line, on the line there, gives Carson Beck a lot of his time. His weapons are he's getting more acclimated with his weapons. Malachi Tony's looking really, really good. A guy who still should be in high school. And that defense with Ruben Bain, who could be in consideration for the number 1 overall pick in next year's draft. I would. This is just a game for a Mario Cristobal that you can't overlook, because yes, you should win this game, and you probably should win this game by 10 to 14 points. But this is a type of game with experienced coach with Jeff Brom. You could lose if you start overlooking it, but in Miami's case, they have a lot of those games, on their schedule remaining. So it's not like you've got some big ranked team you're playing next week. You're looking at, but I think they should be able to cruise to a victory, and
listen, and I wouldn't push back on that, a whole bunch. I think they're favored. What was it, 13.5? I think is the spread, 12.5, 13.5, something like that. I think is what I saw. And so again, I think there's a reason for that, right? And when you turn the page, right, and you're looking at what Louisville's defense is going to do against Miami's offense. Louisville's defense is one of the best in the country, right? Their D-line gets after it. Those guys are really, really good. They're good on the back end. They're good on the line of scrimmage. Stanquan Clark, a linebacker, right? It's a guy that Miami really wanted when he was coming out of high school in Miami, and a guy that they missed on. But there again, it's kind of like the same thing I'm looking at in terms of their offense. When you look at the way they've struggled against a not elite resume, I'm also kind of looking at that in terms of defense. You're going, okay, well, who have they played, right? And that's where I think when you're looking at what Miami's done and their numbers, right? Listen, we know for a fact numbers lie in college. Numbers lie, right? We've proven that. Florida State has proven it. There's a lot of teams that have proven it, that numbers do lie. And when you're putting up, numbers against a certain quality of opponent, you may have to dig a little bit deeper, dissect, those numbers. And, okay, let's see what's really, are you really real? Are you really what your numbers say you are, right? And so when you're looking at what that Louisville defense has done, I think they're doing it, against teams that aren't going to, present the same offensive line talent that Miami is going to provide. So, again, Carson Beck has proven if you give him time, he will carve you up, and it's going to be up to the D line of Louisville to put pressure on them and or to put pressure on Carson Beck specifically, right? To kind of muddy up that pocket and make him, throw quicker than he wants to. So listen, I can't speak on all the talent that those teams have that Louisville has played, but I would be hard pressed to imagine that they're going to bring the same talent to the field that Miami brings. So, again, I definitely see a Miami win, but listen, I think Louisville has enough to put a scare in them. But the difference is, and I was at this game last year. I went to Louisville for this Miami Louisville game, and it resembled a basketball score. It was crazy. They were up and down the field on each other and the whole deal. I don't expect the same thing this year. Again, with Corey Heatherman leading that defense, and so again, I think Jeff Brom will have some stuff for Miami. I think early on. But I feel like as the game goes on, I really feel like the line of scrimmage battle goes Miami's way, and I think they end up winning this game.
Hey, Alvin, thanks for tuning in, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, I think with what Miami's done, I agree with you. The only person, especially with the remaining schedule, the only person who's beaten Miami is Miami. They should be able to definitely remain undefeated. Looking at the remaining schedule, I mean,
Are you able to bring up that comment? It's not letting me for some reason.
What's up?
So are you able to bring up Alvin's comment? It's not letting me for some reason.
Oh, I can't. No, I don't have access to that.
But yeah, listen.
I mean, if you're looking at the remaining, they got Stanford, SMU, Syracuse, NC State, Virginia Tech, Pittsburgh. I could see the only maybe tough game, minus maybe this week would be Pittsburgh.
Listen,
I think with the experience they got on defense should be able to handle a young quarterback. But I mean, they should be favored in every single game.
Yeah. Now, should they be favored? Yeah. Are they going to be? Yeah. I still think. I think Friday. Again, I wouldn't. That's a losable game. In my opinion, I wouldn't go sleeping on Louisville. I think they win the game. Based on the mentality, based on the way that defense is playing this year. But again, I wouldn't sleep on Louisville by any stretch of the imagination. I think going to Dallas November 1st, I think, SMU isn't what they were last year, but I still think that's a game you can't overlook. Virginia Tech, I'm not worried about this year, even though it's at Blacksburg. You're going to need more than Enter Sandman on the speakers to have a chance against Miami. I just don't think that happens. Stanford, I don't think is going to put up much of a fight. That Pitt game, at the end of the season, is one that definitely I'm looking at, and slightly worries me a little bit. Based on Miami's previous experience with Pitt and everything, and it's a team that always plays Miami tough. So. Again, I definitely don't think I pushed back a whole bunch on what Alvin put on there, right? Based on what UM has done this season, the only team that beating UM is themselves. I don't think that's a stretch necessarily. I think when you're looking at why they're going to be favored over everybody they play the rest of the season, is I think they're more talented than everybody, and there's a couple teams that maybe aren't having the season that they thought that people maybe assumed they were going to have this year. Again, SMU being one of them. Syracuse being another one. Obviously, I think Syracuse is down. Obviously, after losing Steve Angeli, I think their season has kind of started to spiral a little bit. And so, again, I don't think these are teams you overlook, but I think if it kind of boils down to, listen, if Miami does everything that they're supposed to and play to their capability, I think Alvin is right in that the team that beats themselves.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, SEC's got some big games this week. We can. You got LSU, Vanderbilt, but obviously the big one in the SEC is number 5 Ole Miss travels to Athens to face number 9 UGA, and that is 3:30 Eastern start time. This definitely could be a type of game of the way we're seeing where the SEC is this year was so competitive. Definitely be a game, a make or break game to get you to Atlanta at the end of the year, because you're seeing Ole Miss 5 right now, A&M 4, Alabama with 1 loss at 6, UGA 5 with 1 loss at 9, Tennessee with 1 loss, which one of those teams will change this week. LSU with 1 loss. Texas is still got some shot because they've only got, they're 1-1. So it's definitely could be a make or break game to get to Athens. Not Athens, Atlanta. Because you lose the head to head. But like we've discussed in the past on our past shows, there's so much parity this year in the SEC that I couldn't predict who's going to be in Atlanta at the end of the year for sure. Definitely. I wasn't going to say it was going to be Ole Miss and Texas. Have Ole Miss and Texas A&M at the start of the year. So I was wrong there, but we're wrong.
You weren't the only one picking Texas to do big things without a doubt. So no, man. Listen, the weekend is definitely going to have some good games. Remember, the Holy War is also going on, right? BYU and Utah, right? Those are always
narrowly beat Arizona in Tucson. They beat us in double over. They beat Arizona in double overtime narrowly.
Yeah. There's again, I think there's definitely some some good games for sure. And obviously the SEC kind of leads that charge. But yeah, like you mentioned, listen, Ole Miss, Georgia, going to be a good one. Tennessee at Alabama, that'll be a good one. Listen, sneaky good game. LSU Vanderbilt. I think that's a losable game for LSU. Yeah,
with Diego Pavia. That guy. To throw aside how old he is, but that guy's a gamer.
Yeah, 100%. He reminds me of a guy who's going to be like the MVP of the UFL, right? A guy who's probably not going to play in the NFL, but he's gonna go to like the UFL and just like dominate. You know what I mean? So he's gonna be like the MVP of the UFL. He just kind of strikes me as that kind of guy. Mondo, appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much, man. Glad to see you on the comments, man. We got to get together, bro. It's been a minute. So hope everything is good with you, bro. Hope everything's good with you and the family. Appreciate you tuning in, man.
I know. It's definitely seeing all the. It's the. You go on Twitter and obviously you got a lot of people from Miami on this chat, and it's the one of either two ways. You see the so much hype for Hurricanes football, and then you see the Dolphins, which is so much negative. Bobby, hey,
It's
I had to
yeah,
throw a little
man.
shade. My team
It,
sucks too. So I
yeah,
mean,
listen. The AFC East has two of the more downtrodden teams right now for sure. The Jets looked absolutely pitiful on offense the other day against Denver. That game set offense back a generation. That
I've
was bad.
literally
That was so bad.
literally
But yeah, man, and then the Dolphins
literally,
obviously,
literally
they
say Justin Fields is like, you got to take the good with the bad because the bad is bad, but the good is really good. But it's a
yeah,
lot.
man. Listen, he's
We're talking
obviously
too
yeah,
much.
yeah. Yeah. We'll wrap it up here in a second. Yeah, but yeah, man, Justin Fields, like you said, right, you take the good with the bad, but unfortunately, man, he's a guy that he's gonna struggle. He can't consistently win from the pocket, man. He sees things too late, holds the ball way too long, takes too many sacks, and then when he breaks the pocket, man, he's taking too many hits and everything. And so, again, man, I just that team, the Jets are just not doing well. Dolphins are either. So, but yeah, man. You what else you got? Man? You got anything else? That's all I'm saying right now.
I mean, obviously we got to. I mean, Tennessee, Alabama, that'll be a great game. SC Notre Dame. Notre Dame is now 4-2 after the two tough losses to Texas A&M, and Miami, which don't. If you're looking at the grand scape of things, they look like quality losses to both. To losing to number 2, now number 2 Miami, and now number 5 Texas A&M. They both look like good losses.
Well, you knew. Listen, you knew what the forecast was for them when they were 0-2, was still in the top 25.
Oh
right?
yeah,
Which is it's wild.
I don't know about the Texas A&M. I think that was, I think a lot of people you said, a lot of people are surprised about that. We didn't. I don't. If you projected Texas A&M 6-0 at this point, you must be a real true SEC guy or Texas A&M fan.
Well, listen, that was one of those teams. I know me personally. Before the season started, I saw a lot of people hyping Texas A&M. Saw a lot of people. With Texas A&M, it's kind of their dark horse pick in the SEC. So, I mean, for me personally, I'm not super shocked, to see, especially considering what you have. You have Marcel Reed, Casey Concepcion. You got a really good defense. You're able to run the ball. They're well coached. Obviously the home field advantage, plays a part with the college, 12th man. And so, aside from their really weird, chants of them dudes doing the overalls and everything like that, their yells or whatever it is, that's so cringy. It's ridiculous. Outside of that it's weird. It's super weird. But outside of that, man, that team is really good, and they're gonna be in it at the end.
You know who Noah Fifita got to throw touchdowns to in high school? The Arizona quarterback.
Hmm.
His number one receiver was Tetaroa McMillan.
Old T-Mac.
Yeah, everybody's Tetaroa. But and they still weren't even. They both went to Servite High School in Anaheim, California. But I mean, you got Notre Dame coming in. Notre Dame 4-2, 5-1 SC. They're going to South Bend. It's the Bush push. All you NFL people fans who say the tush. It's the Bush push started first.
That was the original. The original tush push.
Not this tush. It's the Bush push.
That was when it was still. That was when it was illegal. That was when
right.
That was when it was illegal, and they didn't flag him for it. That was illegal as hell. What Reggie Bush did to Matt Leinart. Again, based on the rules, it was illegal, but they didn't call it, and they won a hell of a game. I remember watching that game. It was pretty impressive. That was the original. The original tush push was that one right there for sure.
Yes, yeah. That should be a game to watch, and like you said, the Holy War. Utah coming off a dominant victory against Arizona State. Yes, no with Sam Leavitt, but I mean, you hang a 42 spot. BYU narrowly beats Arizona in the valley there out there in Tucson. Yep. That should be a good game. Who's a team who's surprising me was 5-1. I wouldn't have predicted is Cincinnati right now.
Very quietly, And you know what else is crazy? You know what else is crazy about when you look at the Cincinnati record, which cannot be overlooked, is look at their old coach, right? Who's their old coach?
The Wisconsin guy, Luke.
Was it Luke? Not Luke Fair. Luke. What? How do I not remember his name? How did I just forget his name? Luke Fickell. Luke Fickell. So Luke Fickell was the head coach at Cincinnati, right? Before he took which job? The Wisconsin gig, right? So now look at what Cincinnati has become without Luke Fickell, and look at what Wisconsin has become with Luke Fickell. Wisconsin is a disaster right now. Like, you talk about in shambles, Wisconsin is in shambles right now. Yeah. And who would have thought, like, a few years ago, dude, Luke Fickell was a super highly thought of guy, right? I mean, he had Cincinnati looking really good in the whole deal, right? I mean, it's crazy. Like, to me, it's crazy. And they had to bring in Scott Satterfield, right, from App State. And he came in and he's kind of, gotten that program at Cincinnati on track and the whole deal. So, man, listen, really impressive what Cincinnati's doing. They're looking good very quietly. Very quietly looking good.
But, I mean, they beat 20 Nebraska, lost 2017 to Nebraska. I mean, you beat Kansas 37-34. You beat Iowa State, who was 14-38-30 this past week.
Resume was good.
I mean, that was good. I was just looking at that. I'm like, looking at the schedule for other games. I'm like, Cincinnati's 5-1. Really surprised me.
Yeah, that's not one that I would have picked at the beginning of the season to be where they are. So there again, man, I think, very quietly, man, very quietly. Having a really good season. And like I said, Scott Satterfield has proven he can coach, man. He did really good at App State, and he's doing really good at Cincinnati right now. So
we got Georgia Tech still 6-0. Beat Virginia Tech, which isn't really saying much this past week. Got Duke, Syracuse, NC State, Boston College, Pitt, and then end the year against Georgia, which will have no effect on making the ACC title, obviously. But you got anything else you watching this week, or?
No, man. I'm actually, I think I don't know if I told you, but I know, obviously I know, but end of the week here, I'm taking off to San Francisco, man. Friday, flying to San Francisco, going out there for the Niners and Falcons game. So I'll definitely have to be
flying to San Francisco to see the team that plays in your hometown.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, man, flying out there, going to check out the game, and I'm excited, man. I'm excited. Definitely, I'm gonna have to keep up with everything. I'm gonna have to find a bar to get to nice and early, obviously based on the time difference.
9 a.m. start time. Hey, that's the one upside. I tell you, I like how it's. I would say I've been on the Mountain Time Zone. I've been on the Central, East Coast, and West Coast. For NFL, Mountain Time Zone is probably the best because it starts at 11. Central's right there. For college football, 9-8. You wake up, you get your breakfast, watch the end of game day, and you got games from 9 o'clock till like 8:30. East Coast time zone.
Yeah, it's not ideal. It's not ideal, especially for the late games, for the West Coast games.
12, it's great, but once the 7:30 game starts and it goes till like 11:30 to midnight, I'm like, and like NFL, I can barely get through Sunday Night Football because I'm like, by the end, I'm like, I've just watched 2 games. Red zone. I'm just can't watch any more football. I got to take a break, and I've been watching because I got to watch college football all day Saturday.
Of course,
You
yeah.
know?
So it's like, truly Pac-12 after dark, right? Is
Oh yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
But I
when
mean, it's
you know,
maybe you should. Maybe you should throw some gear on, suit up for the Niners. They could use some extra players. They're losing a lot.
They could use the bodies at this point for sure. But
Maybe a linebacker. I don't know where'd you play in high school.
Man, I didn't play football, brother. I played football. I didn't play. I played football, not football. Played a lot of football growing up on in the neighborhood and the whole deal, but not organized. So man, listen, they need the help, but also reinforcements are on the way. Brock Purdy's supposed to be healthy enough to play. So is George Kittle, so is Ricky Pearsall. Obviously, the defense won't get the same reinforcements, but the offense. Hopefully, they're going to have some.
Did you see the offensive lineman who stepped on your kick, Eddie Pinero's foot?
Yes,
and the amount of difference, his foot's like this.
The O lineman had a Sasquatch foot, and Eddie Pinero's got like a size 9, and getting stepped on by like a size 16 foot. You know what I mean? So
it looked like a giant stepping on a baby.
Yeah. And it happened like slow motion too. It was like, how the hell? Come on, Eddie! React quicker, man. Move your foot. So I couldn't really understand that one. But listen, man, it didn't stop from making the kick. Which was big. And so I mean, ultimately they end up losing, but not because of Eddie Pinero. So yeah, man, I think reinforcements are on the way. Much needed help, at least on offense for sure. So
Francisco's a beautiful city.
It is, man. I've been there twice. I've definitely enjoyed it, man, and definitely looking forward to getting out and about, man, and eating and having some drinks and man, just hanging out, having a good time, man. And so yeah, I'll be up early Saturday. I remember last time I was out there was actually during the World Cup, right? So dude, they had stuff going on, at like 6 a.m. at the bars out there. San Francisco, so it was pretty cool to see that happening. So expecting kind of the same thing this time around, just with the college football a little bit later on in the morning, not so much 6 a.m, but definitely early. And I'll be good. I'm good with not a lot of sleep, so I'll sleep when I get back. So, yeah, man. So yeah, bro, that's that is it, man.
Yeah, ready for another great week of college football.
Yeah, man, for sure. Definitely the same, man. It'll be another great week. Hopefully all your teams, hopefully your teams don't let you down. And
I only got one team going right now, and that's the Jets, and they lose a lot. They might maybe this week. I would say maybe this week, but the Panthers are looking better. It's looking like maybe I know. No, Bobby Mendoza likes Fernando Mendoza. Maybe he can come to New York and drive him nuts. He likes. He said he didn't want Aaron Glenn in New York, and then he got hired by the Jets. Which yes, people are already calling for his head. I'm like, Dan Campbell was 2-14 his first year, so give him a little time.
Yeah, but I think you have to. Yeah, I think you have to be patient, right? I think, but still, man, that team's got a long way to go, man.
But that's the only thing going. Right now, I got October baseball. I'm locked in there. I'm going tomorrow night with my man Finn Stanza. Evan Finn Stanza has been joining me for the playoffs. So that's good. But I locked into October baseball.
Are you over the Yankees letdown? Or have we moved past that?
I've been past it for a long time, dude. I know I can be an annoying fan, but I'll be a very realistic fan. It was like, people are like, oh, the Yankees this. I'm like, they just got beat by a bet. Like, if you know baseball like I do, or if you're not a casual, I'm like, they were a better team just overall. That's what it came down to. They hit, they played good defense, they pitched. I mean, it was just like, I criticize my teams more than anybody else. I hate and the Yankees especially the most, but I've been over it. I moved on that one quick. I'm like, this team's not doing anything. It's just it's built for a 162 and to sell tickets. It wasn't built to win a World Series, unfortunately. And we don't have the big boss. If the big boss was still alive, Mr. Steinbrenner, it'd be a different story. But his son's a little different.
Well, listen, there's now you have to kind of sit back and watch the Dodgers become looking like possibly the next the next dynasty. So we'll see what the rest of the baseball playoffs bring, man, and like I said, we'll see what this weekend brings for college football, man. So man, if you don't have anything else, man, we'll end it.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, man. So listen, if you guys like the show, do us a huge favor. Follow us on X, Russ on Deck 2, Nate Football Pod. And also you can find us both on Instagram, YouTube. Find our socials there. I Hate Football Podcast. And what's the YouTube channel? Also on deck, right? The on deck podcast.
On deck.
Yeah. So do us a huge favor, guys. Like and subscribe to the shows if you can, man. We definitely appreciate it. Appreciate everybody joining in. Mondo, appreciate you. Alvin, appreciate you. Ultimate Sports Network. Thanks for the comments, everybody that's watching on YouTube and everywhere else. We also appreciate you guys. We will get with you guys next week. And until then, hope everybody has a great rest of your week. And we shall talk to you soon. Good night. Peace.